Have you ever gone for a walk in the park, maybe taken a hike in the woods, or even just spent a sunny afternoon gardening and thought nothing of it afterward? Most of us have. It's just part of enjoying life, right? But what if I told you that something as small as a tick, no bigger than a sesame seed, could change your life in ways you'd never expect? And worse, you might not even know it's happening. I know, it sounds like the beginning of a horror movie. But this isn't fiction. This is real, and it's affecting more people than you'd think, from energetic kids who love exploring the outdoors, to busy adults juggling careers and family, to older folks enjoying retirement walks or working in their flower beds. The truth is, Lyme disease doesn't care how old you are. It doesn't care how healthy you are either. And the scariest part? You could have it right now and not even know it. In this video, we're going to talk about what makes Lyme disease so sneaky, how it hides in plain sight, and what early warning signs to look out for. We'll also talk about some real stories, the most common misunderstandings, and what you can do to protect yourself and your loved ones. But don't worry, this won't be a science lecture. Think of it more like a chat over coffee, where we connect the dots and uncover some life-saving truths together. So let's get into it. Now, imagine this. You wake up one morning feeling a little more tired than usual. You brush it off, maybe you didn't sleep well. A few days later, your joints feel a bit stiff. You figure it's just age, or maybe the weather. Then your head starts pounding more than normal. You might even start feeling a little foggy, like your brain's working through molasses. Sound familiar? If you've experienced any of these, you're not alone, but you also might be overlooking something serious. See, Lyme disease doesn't always announce itself with a dramatic bang. It's sneaky. For some people, the early signs are so mild, they just get dismissed as stress, allergies, aging, or even just one of those days. And the classic bullseye rash you might have heard about? Well, not everyone gets it. In fact, up to 30% of people never see a rash at all. That means it's entirely possible to be infected and have no idea. Here's something that might surprise you. Lyme disease can mimic other illnesses. It's like a shapeshifter. One week you think you have the flu. Next week, it feels like arthritis. Then maybe anxiety, depression, or even memory problems. It confuses doctors and patients alike. That's why it's so often misdiagnosed. People can go months, even years, without getting the right answers. I once heard a story about a young woman who spent over 2 years going from specialist to specialist. She was told it was fibromyalgia, then chronic fatigue, then stress. She started to doubt herself. But after relentless digging, one test finally showed the truth. It was Lyme disease all along. And by then, it had already affected her nervous system, her joints, even her heart. She said, "If I had just known what to look for earlier, my whole life might be different." That's what makes this topic so urgent. This isn't just about fear, it's about awareness. Because the earlier you catch Lyme disease, the easier it is to treat. But the longer it stays hidden, the more damage it can do. Now let's take a step back for a second and talk about how Lyme disease actually spreads. The villain here is the black-legged tick, sometimes called the deer tick. It doesn't fly. It doesn't jump. It just waits patiently in grass, bushes, or leaves, and grabs on when you brush past. You won't feel the bite. Their saliva actually has a numbing agent, so most people never notice. If the tick carries the Lyme-causing bacteria, a little spiral-shaped thing called Borrelia burgdorferi, it can pass that bacteria into your body if it stays attached long enough, usually more than 24 hours. That's why checking yourself for ticks after spending time outdoors is one of the best things you can do to protect yourself. It sounds simple, but it works. And remember, ticks don't only live deep in the forest. They can show up in city parks, backyards, even dog parks. They hitch rides on pets, wildlife, and sometimes even your clothes. No matter where you live, rural or urban, ticks can find a way to cross your path. Now you might be wondering, if Lyme is so tricky and silent, what can I really do? How do I protect myself or the people I care about? Well, it starts with listening to your body. Don't ignore those little whispers, the unexplained fatigue, the odd joint pains, the headaches that feel just a bit different. Your body is smarter than you think. When something's off, it's usually trying to tell you something. And it's okay to ask questions, even if you're afraid of the answers. In fact, that's the bravest thing you can do. Another important thing is to trust your instincts when you feel dismissed. If a doctor tells you it's all in your head, or gives you a diagnosis that doesn't sit right, keep asking. Keep digging. Lyme disease is real. It's not rare. And you deserve to be taken seriously. We've come a long way in understanding Lyme, but there's still a long way to go. There's no one-size-fits-all test. Sometimes it takes more than one try to catch it. But awareness is the key that opens the door. Now that we've opened up the conversation and pulled back the curtain on just how sneaky and silent Lyme disease can be, let's look a little deeper into what happens when it goes undiagnosed, and what early steps you can take to stop it in its tracks before it takes over. So now that we've opened our eyes to how quietly Lyme disease can creep in, let's talk about what it actually does when it's left untreated. Because the longer it hides in your body, the more damage it can cause, and we're not just talking about sore joints or being a little more tired than usual. Lyme disease can get into your nervous system. It can affect your brain, your heart, even your mood. Some people who go months or years without knowing they have it start to feel like they're falling apart for no reason. One day it's brain fog so heavy they can't finish a sentence. Another day, it's stabbing joint pain in the knees or wrists. Some folks report strange tingling sensations, like pins and needles that won't go away. And others develop anxiety or depression seemingly out of nowhere. It's no wonder so many people get misdiagnosed. When symptoms come and go, and don't follow a pattern, it's easy to chalk them up to stress, aging, or something random. That's why it's so important to understand that Lyme disease doesn't always follow the rules. It doesn't always look like a typical infection. It doesn't always give you a fever. And it definitely doesn't always show up clearly on a lab test the first time. But your experience, your lived, day-to-day reality, matters more than any number on a test. If something feels wrong, trust that feeling. Now, here's something most people don't realize: Lyme disease doesn't always hit you fast. Sometimes it lingers quietly for years. Maybe you were bitten a long time ago and never knew. Maybe your immune system held it off for a while, but now, after a stressful event or an illness, it's flaring up again. That's called chronic Lyme or post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome, and it's real. People who deal with it describe it as a roller coaster of symptoms that can change week to week. I spoke to a man once, a grandfather in his 60s, who told me he felt like he was aging and fast forward. His knees ached constantly, he was always tired no matter how much he slept, and sometimes he couldn't find the right words in conversations. Doctors told him it was just getting older. But deep down, he knew something else was going on. It took nearly 3 years before a new doctor thought to test for Lyme. And just like that, all the puzzle pieces started falling into place. He said, "Getting that answer didn't fix everything overnight, but at least I knew I wasn't crazy." That story isn't rare. That's the part that's hard to hear and harder to live through. But there's good news, too. Once Lyme is diagnosed, there are treatments. In the early stages, antibiotics can usually clear it out completely. But even if it's been around longer, there are ways to manage symptoms, rebuild your health, and feel like yourself again. The first step is catching it, and for that, awareness is everything. So let's talk about what you can actually do. What steps can you take starting today? First and most obviously, be tick smart. If you spend time outside, even just walking the dog through some tall grass, do a quick tick check when you get home. Ticks love warm, hidden places, behind the knees, around the waistline, under the arms, in the scalp, and around the ears. If you find a tick, don't panic. Use fine-tip tweezers to grab it close to the skin and pull it out gently but steadily. Don't twist, don't burn it, just a clean pull. Then clean the area and keep an eye on it. It's also smart to save the tick in a small plastic bag, in case you want to get it tested later. I know that sounds a little weird, like you're starting a tick collection, but it can actually help your doctor if symptoms show up down the road. Another simple trick is wearing light-colored clothing when you go outside. That way, ticks are easier to spot. You can also tuck your pants into your socks if you're walking through brush. Not the most fashionable look, I'll admit, but very effective. You might be surprised to learn that tick season isn't just summer. Yes, late spring and early summer are peak times, but ticks can be active even in fall and winter if the temperature is above freezing. So don't let your guard down just because the leaves are changing or it's a little chilly outside. Now, let's go back to symptoms for a moment, because this part is really important. If you do develop symptoms, even subtle ones, after a possible tick bite or just from being outdoors a lot, keep track of them. Jot them down in a notebook or use a note app on your phone. Write down how you're feeling each day. This kind of symptom journal can be a lifesaver when talking to your doctor. It helps show patterns and gives real evidence of what's been going on. And if your doctor brushes it off or tells you it's all in your head, don't give up. Advocate for yourself. Ask to be tested. Ask for a second opinion. It's your body. You know it better than anyone else. Sometimes you have to be persistent to get the care you deserve. And here's the thing, this isn't just about you. If you're a parent, a grandparent, a pet owner, or someone who loves the outdoors, this matters for your whole family. Kids, especially, are at high risk. They play outside, roll around in the grass, explore the woods, all the things they should be doing. But that means we need to be more aware. A simple nightly tick check on your kids or pets could make all the difference. Lyme disease is real, it's spreading, and yes, it can be serious. But the more we know, the more power we have. And that's what this is really about. Not fear, but power. When we understand the risks, when we know what signs to look for, and when we listen to our bodies, we take back control. We stop letting something so small have such a big impact on our lives. Let's keep going, there's more we can uncover together. Because once we understand how Lyme disease moves through the body, we can also learn how to fight back and recover in ways that restore our energy, our clarity, and our confidence. By now, we've seen just how quietly Lyme disease can sneak in, how it can shapeshift through symptoms that mimic aging, stress, or other illnesses, and how important it is to trust your instincts when your body's telling you something isn't quite right. So, let's turn our focus to something just as important, healing. If you or someone you love is dealing with Lyme, or maybe still searching for answers, I want to say this first, you are not alone. Thousands of people are walking the same road, trying to understand why they feel like a shadow of who they once were. And while it's true that recovery from Lyme disease isn't always a straight line, it is absolutely possible to rebuild your health, step by step. The first step is always getting diagnosed and treated properly. In early stages, antibiotics like doxycycline can knock out the infection effectively. But when it's been lingering for a while, the road back might take a little more time and a whole lot of patience. That's when it becomes less about just fighting bacteria, and more about supporting your body's systems as a whole. See, Lyme disease doesn't just hit one part of your body. It can affect your immune system, your gut health, your hormones, even your nervous system. So if you're in recovery, or trying to feel better after treatment, it helps to think of healing as a full-body experience. One of the most powerful ways to support your recovery is by focusing on nourishing your body with real, healing foods. We're talking about colorful vegetables, leafy greens, good fats like avocados and olive oil, wild-caught fish, nuts and seeds, the kind of food that fights inflammation and gives your cells the fuel they need to repair. Reducing sugar and processed food can make a big difference in how you feel, especially if Lyme has triggered ongoing fatigue or joint pain. Another major factor? Sleep. Lyme disease can absolutely wreck your sleep cycle. Some people lie awake for hours, others sleep but wake up feeling like they didn't rest at all. But here's the thing, your body does its deepest healing while you sleep. So creating a calming bedtime routine, limiting screen time before bed, and using gentle natural aids like magnesium or herbal teas can help reset that rhythm. And don't forget about movement. Now, I'm not talking about running marathons here. For many people recovering from Lyme, pushing too hard can actually backfire. But gentle walks, stretching, or low-impact movement like Tai Chi or yoga can help improve circulation, reduce stiffness, and boost mood. Just listen to your body. Some days you might feel like moving more, other days you need to rest. That's okay. There's also the emotional side of recovery, and it's just as important. Lyme can be incredibly isolating. When people don't understand what you're going through, when you look fine on the outside but feel awful on the inside, it's easy to feel dismissed or even invisible. That's why finding a support system, whether it's friends, family, or even an online group of others going through the same thing, can make all the difference. You need people who believe you, who hear you, and who remind you that your experience is valid. I've heard people say that Lyme disease stole their life. But I've also seen people who, through the struggle, found a strength they never knew they had. They became advocates. They got closer to their families. They paid more attention to their health and learned how to truly listen to their bodies. Healing from Lyme isn't just about going back to who you were. Sometimes, it's about becoming someone even more in tune with life than before. And look, I know this whole journey can be overwhelming. When you're tired, in pain, and feeling lost, even the idea of getting better can seem out of reach. But the truth is, you don't have to do it all at once. Just one small step at a time. Drink more water today. Take a 10-minute walk tomorrow. Speak up at your next doctor's appointment. Ask the hard questions. Advocate for your health. Because every step counts. Now, if you're someone who's never had Lyme, or maybe you're just learning about it today, you might be wondering, what can I do to stay safe? The answer isn't to live in fear. It's to live with awareness. Enjoy the outdoors. Hug your dog. Tend to your garden. Go for that hike. But be smart about it. Use tick repellents. Wear long sleeves and pants when you're in high-risk areas. Do those tick checks when you get home. And maybe most importantly, share what you've learned. Talk to your kids, your neighbors, your friends. So many people still believe Lyme disease is rare or that it's easy to spot. But you and I now know better. And by spreading that awareness, you could be the reason someone catches it early. You could save them years of confusion and suffering. That's a gift worth sharing. So here's what I want to leave you with. Lyme disease is real. It's sneaky. And yes, it can be serious. But you are not powerless. The more you know, the more tools you have. The more you listen to your body, the more it will tell you. And the more you speak up, the more people will listen to you and to the truth. If any part of this video resonated with you, if you've ever had unexplained fatigue, brain fog, strange aches and pains, or if someone you love is going through it, I encourage you to drop a comment below and share your story. You never know who you might help. And if this video helped you, even just a little bit, give it a like and hit that subscribe button. I'll be sharing more real talk health tips, not just about Lyme, but about how to live well, really well, at every stage of life. Here's to trusting your body, standing up for your health, and living with clarity, energy, and confidence. Because you deserve to feel good again. You really do.